Hello, everyone. Today, 538 released an awesome new tool that can allow you to see how winning a certain key state can influence other states around the country and specifically in its geographical location. So, we're going to go over a few scenarios there. We're also going to talk about updated polling data, including some very shocking news in one poll in Wisconsin and shocking news in Texas. One is very good for Donald Trump, one very bad for Donald Trump. Also, a new national poll that has the race within the margin of error nationally, which is a shocking poll. It's probably an outlier, but we can talk about that a little bit. But first, to start off, let's take a look at the state of the race as it stands today, October 22nd, 2020. Joe Biden has an 87% chance of becoming the 46th president of the United States. And Donald Trump has a 13% chance of winning re-election. Now, if we take a look at the map, Biden is currently ahead in Florida, North Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. Okay. And Iowa is basically a toss-up for either side. It's like a coin toss, and Ohio is the same, pretty much a coin flip. And Georgia is a coin flip for either side. So let's look at some different scenarios to see how election day might play out if the election were held today. So what happens to the probabilities, let's say, if Texas is called for Donald Trump? Well, if Texas is called for Donald Trump, he increases to 19% probability. And notice that his probability jumps in Georgia from being a coin flip to now basically 70-30 in Donald Trump's favor. And the same is also true, let's say that he wins Georgia. If he wins Georgia, you can see suddenly the North Carolina probability shift towards his favor. Because if he were to win Georgia, it would mean that, the same type of people in North Carolina would probably be supporting Donald Trump. And this is true it depends on their margins too. Because if Donald Trump barely wins Texas, and let's say he barely wins Georgia, I think that's okay. Yeah, North Carolina is now a 67% in favor of Joe Biden, right? If Donald Trump were to win North Carolina, Texas and Georgia no longer are toss-ups, but become heavily favored to go for Donald Trump. So you can see how these southern states are voting together in blocks because you have a huge population of conservative voters who are non-college educated whites, and it might also say a lot about the minority turnout. And in a scenario in which North Carolina or Georgia goes for Donald Trump, perhaps the minority turnout in those states were low. Or same thing is true in Texas. If Texas goes for Donald Trump, perhaps the Latino turnout was lower than expected. So let's revert these back. Here, let me reset the map for a second. So this is the way that the race currently stands. What does the race look like if, let's say, Arizona goes for Donald Trump? If Arizona were to go to Trump, even though Biden was favored to win Arizona, suddenly Texas is almost 100% sure to go to Donald Trump. Georgia goes to Donald Trump 80-20, and Trump is favored in North Carolina. If Biden wins Arizona, suddenly Texas becomes a toss-up again. Biden is wildly favored to win in Georgia, and Biden is wildly favored to win in North Carolina. So Arizona can be kind of a bellwether state to see how is this election night going to go. Now, if we take a look at Florida, Florida is really big in and of itself because almost every path that Donald Trump has to victory goes through Florida. It is highly improbable that Joe Biden would win Florida and Donald Trump would win the White House again. But let's take a look. If Florida goes for Trump, Texas, Georgia, and North Carolina all become favored for Donald Trump. Even Arizona becomes favored for Trump. Now, the probability shoots up to 42% that Donald Trump will win the White House. And those are really good odds. In fact, a few months ago, earlier in the summer, I think most Republicans were pretty confident that Florida would go for Donald Trump. And you can see, of course, the election is much, much closer than what it stands today. If Joe Biden were to win Florida, he has a greater than 99% chance of winning the White House. So these are huge swings either way. So Florida is a huge, and since it will be one of the first states called on election night, on November 3rd, we might know where the entire election is headed based upon the returns in Florida. Now, if we reset the map and take a look, where does Florida stand? Where does Florida stand nationally? We can take a look over here. Right now, Florida is about 4% in favor of Joe Biden. So whether or not we're going to have a close election or whether or not this is going to be a landslide election may actually rest all on Florida. And we may know early in the night on November 3rd, which we're liable to see. Now, let's talk about the Rust states, the Rust Belt states for a little bit. If on election night, Joe Biden wins Pennsylvania, he will have a 96% chance of winning the White House. You see his chances in Michigan shoot up to almost clearly favored in Wisconsin and clearly favored in Minnesota. So winning Pennsylvania is a huge boon for Joe Biden on election night. But let's say Pennsylvania goes for Donald Trump. Notice how drastically the entire map of the country changes. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, suddenly Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Texas, Ohio, and Iowa all massively tilt towards Donald Trump's favor. It tilts so far in his favor that even Wisconsin becomes a likely state for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump chances shoots up to 73% probability that he will win re-election. So Pennsylvania is a huge state in this election. It can swing the election from 96% Biden to 73% Trump. One state. And if we take a look at the 538 polls for Pennsylvania, we can see Biden has an 86% chance of winning re-election there. And the average of the polls has Biden at 6.2, although the more recent polls, still about 6.2 because there was a CNN I'm not exactly sure how to read these two polls, the CNN SSRS poll, because one has him at +10 and the other +5. It's not immediately clear to me the difference between these two. Let's assume that the +5 is the most accurate, though. So he's about +5 in these recent polls that have come out. And +5 on average 2 weeks before the election. If it was anybody else but Donald Trump, we would say, okay, clearly at over 50% for a while now, Joe Biden is going to win Pennsylvania. But the fact that the polls were off by wide margins in 2016, I think everyone is a little bit nervous about just calling a state this early based upon polling data. But that's the way that the race looks now. Now, if we assume Pennsylvania goes for Biden, Biden might win. Biden wins Michigan, he wins Wisconsin, and he wins Minnesota. Suddenly, like if he wins these 4 states, you can see the direction of the electorate is shifted towards Biden. So now he becomes favored in Arizona, clearly favored in Florida, slightly, leaning Biden in Georgia, and clearly favored in North Carolina. Ohio and Iowa are still basically coin flips, but even Iowa goes 60-40 Trump in this scenario. The probability goes 60-40. So these Rust Belt states all going for Biden could signal a huge landslide victory for Joe Biden. But this is where we're going to talk about a shocking poll today. This shocked me. And this poll that came out today was in Wisconsin. Yeah, there was a Susquehanna poll that showed the race in Wisconsin even. All the other polls has Biden ahead. Even a Fox News poll release has Biden up by 5. No other poll except the Trafalgar Group poll, and Trafalgar is known to have a bias. I don't really take them too seriously. And they also have a C- rating. But the Susquehanna poll came out today. They're also a C rated, and they have the races even in Wisconsin. So I think that it is, just to do our due diligence, let's take a look at what happens if Donald Trump wins Wisconsin. If Donald Trump were to win Wisconsin on election day, you see the probabilities of the entire race shift towards his favor. Why? Not just because of the delegate count in Wisconsin, but what that would mean for the electorate as a whole. It would mean Michigan, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania are all basic coin flips. In fact, Pennsylvania is now tilted towards Donald Trump. Florida becomes clearly for Trump. So does Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Texas clearly, overwhelmingly goes for Donald Trump. So Biden is in big trouble if he loses Wisconsin. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter which one of the Rust Belt states. Here, let me reset the map. It doesn't matter which of the Rust Belt states Biden loses, because losing any of the Rust Belt states at all wildly shifts the election towards Donald Trump. So Joe Biden, in order to become president, he desperately needs to hold on to these 4 states. And since they tend to vote together, he cannot afford to lose any of the states. So Wisconsin being at even is a really big shock. Now, for the shot poll in favor of Joe Biden that was released today, we need to look at Texas. Because there was a poll released today in Texas that shows the race is even. Quinnipiac shows that the race is 47-47, dead even heat between Biden and Trump in Texas. Now, 538 has Quinnipiac as B+, but I've noticed a definite Democratic tilt towards their polling. So always, just like Trafalgar, I kind of take Quinnipiac with a grain of salt. Although Quinnipiac's methodology and results have been much, much more accurate than Trafalgar Group. But nevertheless, there was a poll today that shows Biden and Trump even. There's a SurveyMonkey poll that says they're even too, but I don't really put much because it's an online poll. It doesn't really matter very much. So when you're looking at these polls, you can kind of just slide it over to see. Then you can see like a more reasonable result, which shows Donald Trump overall, the average of the polls, plus 1.2 in Texas. And I think most likely Donald Trump will prevail in Texas, but this is very, very close. Right? It could go either way. Who knows what will happen on election day? And the results in some of these other states like Arizona, like Georgia, like Florida, can tell us what might happen in Texas. Because if early in the day on November 3rd, you see Florida going for Biden, you might expect a surprise in Texas. And then you'll have a huge landslide victory, a type of victory that we haven't seen in a long time in America. Because if Florida and Texas goes blue, we're looking at potentially over 400 electoral votes for Joe Biden, which will be, I think Ronald Reagan, Reagan's victory over Carter or Mondale, I think it was Mondale, was as big as this. But we're looking at, this hasn't happened in America in a very, very long time because we've been so divided. So yeah, I encourage you, go on over to 538 and look at the new tool. Play around with the numbers yourselves to look at the different scenarios. And leave me a comment below. Tell me, what do you think about this new tool? What do you think about these two shocking new polls today? Do you see the race headed more and more towards Donald Trump? And does he have a shot? Let me know below and tune in for more news and analysis of this election, because this is all very, very good stuff.